Today on Ag Etc., we start with Dr. Chris Blevins giving tips on how to prevent your horse from choking. Next, Thad Rhodes is talking about the riparian forest buffers and why it's important to help protect our stream banks. Then we end with Eric Atkinson introducing us to the Higbee family, one of 6 couples honored as the 2017 class of Kansas Master Farm Families in recognition of their leadership in agriculture, environmental stewardship, and service to their communities. This statewide award program is in its 91st year and is sponsored by K-State Research and Extension and Kansas Farmer Magazine. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Hello and welcome to Horsing Around. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. And today we're going to talk about a topic that a lot of people may have to deal with their horses, and it can make for a very anxious time for the horse and an anxious time for an owner, and that's esophageal obstruction, also called choke. And so when a horse chokes, it's not necessarily that they get something lodged in their throat latch, but it is getting stuck food material in their throat or in their esophagus, which is the tube that attaches from their throat latch down into their stomach. And how that happens with horses could be a multiple of different reasons, but what I think we need to start with as far as talking about is what would your horse do or show if you were worried about the horse choking? And that's having fluid or food material come out the nose and even the mouth of the horse. They can also be very anxious, pacing around. Some of them may even act like they're colicking and roll. And so I think some of those things you need to be cautious of and be able to understand if you notice these things, then you need to call your veterinarian. Choke is not necessarily a drastic emergency, so we have to fix it right then, but it is an urgency. So what can an owner do before the veterinarian gets there? One, you have to remember that the horse is obstructed. It can't get anything into its stomach. So you need to take away all its food and all its water and put it in a quiet place. So we want to make sure that the head is down and keep the horse as relaxed as possible until the veterinarian gets there to try to prevent them from aspirating or getting food and bacteria into the lungs from the trachea. And so that is a complication that sure can arise with any time a horse chokes. And that wouldn't necessarily cause any issues right then, but sure could later. Now, having your veterinarian out there is usually what's needed to have that recovered. Some horses will recover on their own if they relax and calm down and they can swallow it on down, but otherwise the veterinarian need to get a hold of them. They need to come out and they can pass a tube to relieve that obstruction. Other aspects is putting them usually on antibiotics and making sure that they have proper pain control during the healing process. Cause could be due to teeth, could be due to a stricture, or could be that the horse was actually bolting their food. So your veterinarian can sure help you in trying to prevent those later on and keeping pelleted feed moist down, especially those horses that really want to bolt at their feed can kind of prevent an obstruction called choke. If you have any questions, get a hold of your veterinarian or get us a call here at Kansas State Veterinary Health Center. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins for Horsing Around, and we'll see you around.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Welcome to the Jerry Thomas Gallery and Collection, where we feature my renowned artwork, frontier military, and Native American artifacts. In the painting behind me is Scouting the Trail. 2 scouts overlook the Smoky Hill River Valley just north of the famous Monument Rocks, which are internationally renowned. As a column of 7th Cavalry parade north of the river. On this point, 2 scouts rode in a circle, and there were 18 cartridges found up there, and that meant that they usually were warning of impending danger and firing off their weapons. One of those weapons I feature in the gallery, a Spencer weapon, which we featured in the painting. Very unique and very honored to showcase this to you.
Hi, I'm Randy.
And I'm Paul from PFI.
We would like to personally invite you to stop by PFI, home of Boot Daddies.
PFI is America's Western store, covering over 50,000 square feet.
Over 25,000 boots.
Visit Saddle City with the largest selection of saddles and tack anywhere.
A huge selection of hats at Big Spur Hat Company in PFI Town.
And choose from the best brands of clothing and accessories for the entire family.
PFI, located on Highway 65 at the Battlefield exit in Springfield. And I'm not kidding.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Riparian forest buffers are just a fancy term that basically describes a combination of trees, shrubs, and usually native grasses along some type of a stream. And there's lots of reasons to have them along these riparian or streamside corridors. When you look at property, it depends on if there's any existing trees right beside the stream itself or not. If there's not, it's usually a good opportunity to go in and start your planting adjacent to the existing stream bank and then plant out towards that. A typical buffer design has the faster growing trees right along the stream, and then you transition out into some maybe longer term, more valuable commercial species like your oaks and walnuts, to have then a shrub component on the outside of that to try to transition it into an open area such as a crop field. That adds extra benefit for wildlife as well. And then to have a grass corridor between the trees and the crop field, so the landowner's not fighting against tree branches in the future. It makes it kind of a nice transition. The grass also helps increase the filtering capacity of the buffer too. The two most common claimed are for water quality and water quantity benefits, and especially associated with a reservoir like Tuttle Creek. The sedimentation issue has been an increasing issue since its inception. Reaching its conservation pool in the early 1960s up till now, the sedimentation has increased to where the capacity of the reservoir has lost about 40%. So trees, especially along stream sides, can help increase that by helping stabilize the stream banks, the sediment along the banks. From the standpoint of sedimentation and how riparian forest buffers can help, to illustrate a little bit of the importance of the sedimentation issue, you can see here at Tuttle Creek Reservoir, this is the Fancy Creek State Park area. You can see over time how much sedimentation has accumulated in here. When the reservoir was built, this was one of the park areas that was to be utilized for camping, and now it's just not as accessible because of the sedimentation that has accumulated. Of course, this is where Fancy Creek and the Blue River come in from the north, and as the water starts to slow down, a lot of that sediment that's suspended in the water is dropped out and accumulates here, so you see more evidently the issues that we are and will be dealing with. The reservoir actually has the upper watershed boundary or drainage areas up into Nebraska. There's just shy of 10,000 square miles, with about 3/4 of that in Nebraska. Now when it gets into Kansas, there's about 1.5 million acres of drainage area. Some of the research that I've seen specifically to Kansas says that about 170 different sites along the rivers have been identified to contribute to over 500,000 tons of sediment annually to the reservoir, so trying to stabilize those streams are very important. I think this is an important issue not only in Kansas but nationally. This sedimentation is a natural process of a hydrological ecosystem, but in some instances such as this, with failing stream banks, with increased erosion, it can be sped up. So this is something not only at Tuttle Creek Reservoir that you can see issues with, but also in other areas.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, and we're glad to answer it and work with you.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Welcome to Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in Oakley, Kansas on I-70 at exit 76. I-70, after all, is America's Main Street, and we're right here on Main Street for you. Now that I'm an Oakley resident, I still come in almost every day, and I sit and listen to the conversations of the people around me. You know, the guys who are talking about the big elk they just bagged, or the folks who are taking their kid to college for the first time. People just traveling up and down the highway. Real people, just like you and me. And they find just what I find here, real people to serve them. There's history, there's scenery. We hope you'll stop and see us soon. Welcome to Oakley.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
To say the farming life of Doug and Jean Higbee has been a whirlwind would be a major understatement. They both hail from Franklin County in east central Kansas, and both grew up on dairy farms. In fact, their 4-H dairy judging experience is what brought them together. They're now retired from farming. The day-to-day crop and livestock production is in the hands of their 4 children, who, like their parents, are engaged in full-time careers off the farm as well. Doug and Jean pursued their interests in the medical field while keeping the full-scale farm of 1,200 acres going at the same time. They're renowned for their advocacy for agriculture, especially in reaching out to elementary school youngsters from urban areas. And these days, during the wintertime, they further perpetuate their commitment to community by way of their mission work in South Texas. But it all started on the family farm, as Doug recounts.
I grew up on a farm west of Wellsville, Kansas. It was a dairy, actually. We milked cows, mainly. We also had a sow herd and we had a beef herd. And so we never ran out of chores to do, and always plenty of work. And I would come home sometimes from school and run the combine, and my dad would go do the milking in the evenings during harvest time.
And Jean, you grew up in this area as well, did you not?
Yes, I was blessed. I always think you're blessed to live on a farm. And one of 6 children, and lived on a grade A dairy farm. So I too, like Doug, we milked cows night and morning, and that's also 24/7. They don't take Sundays off. And so we kids all chipped in to help when Dad was in the cornfield so we could feed the cattle. The milking was ours.
Now, you grew up on a dairy near Williamsburg, and Doug grew up on a dairy near Wellsville. How did you two get together then?
We met, actually, judging dairy cattle for Franklin County. We were on the Franklin County dairy judging team.
He got your attention, though, when he made a comment about dairy breeds. Was that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Please elaborate.
Said my Guernseys were not anything compared to his Holsteins, so he got a full set of reasons why they were.
Yeah.
And before we go much further on your story, we do need to note that the Higbee roots, and in fact your roots as well, Jean, farming-wise, go back not just decades, but centuries, it sounds.
Yes.
Yeah. First Higbee to come to America was a farmer, and we have discovered, since we've been retired, we've been doing some genealogy work, traveling around the country doing that, and we've discovered that every generation since him has been involved with agriculture in one form or another. And some of them had other occupations also, but there were some that didn't. They were just straight farmers, and every generation's been that way.
So you are considered the 11th generation
We are.
family.
As fourth-generation farmers themselves, Heinen Brothers Ag Service understands the risk and rewards of farming. So when it comes to quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia, call Heinen Brothers Ag today, 800-760-4964.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
When you met, or after you met, and then you went on to school at Kansas State University, you both ended up in the medical field eventually, concluding your studies at another university, correct?
Yes. I started out at Kansas State and went there my freshman and sophomore year, and then decided on pharmacy school, and so I transferred down to KU and finished my time there.
And Jean?
I started at KU.
Okay.
My daddy said, if you're going to end up at KU, you start at KU.
And then the two of you, on top of all the farming responsibilities, were full-time off-farm as well. And Doug, talk about your experience there first.
Well, I went through ROTC while I was in college, and so I was commissioned second lieutenant out of ROTC, but they allowed me to finish my degree and get my license, and then I was promoted to a captain, and I entered active duty and ended up serving 2 years at Irwin Army Hospital in Fort Riley.
And you were a pharmacist for how many years?
Yes, I was pharmacist for 43 years.
And then Jean, you took your nursing experience and training a variety of ways.
Yes, and when we were at Fort Riley, I also helped at the Gary Community Hospital and taught in-service education. Got a chance to help them start off with their first cardiac team and their first defibrillator.
You spent some time as a school nurse, as a substitute teacher as well, right?
Yes, I've been a nurse for 50 years, and I still substitute as a school nurse, and I also substitute as a teacher.
And all of this was going on off-farm, and then the farming, which grew fairly steadily over the years. Is that correct?
Yeah, it did. We started here in 1971, and then we had an opportunity to purchase some more ground on the east side of this place in 72. And then we went along till about 78, and her parents had retired, and so we had the opportunity to purchase that farm.
So it amounts to present day around 1,200 acres?
1,200.
Grass and crop.
Grass and crop.
And it's diversified.
Right.
Crops and livestock, and a cow herd.
Cow herd.
Some calves on feed.
And we retained calves, and we fed some out and processed them through the meat plant. And then we sold some calves right off the cow, and then sometimes we backgrounded the calves and then sold them. So we were flexible in what we did.
And a hog herd as well, right?
Same way with the hog herd. We sold a lot of the hogs through the meat plant. Some of them just went to slaughter market. So we were pretty flexible that way too.
So many of the things that you've done in a community and civic sense, we couldn't possibly cover them all. I wanted to touch upon at least one or two, particularly the outreach opportunities that you've presented to grade school children, Days at the Farm, which you've conducted for a number of years now. In fact, you think that maybe this was the first such day at the farm ever conducted in the state of Kansas.
We thought so at the time, and our ag advisor is the one that came up with that idea, that no one else had done that yet at the time. Whether that's true or not, I guess we don't know that for sure, but we were certainly pioneers in the field. And we hosted it for 15 years from 1985 to 2000. It grew over the years. We had as many as 800 at one time.
In conjunction with the local FFA chapter?
In conjunction with the chapter, yeah. We just provided the place for them to have it, basically, is what we did.
I'm Rexanne Strew, veterinarian in Western Iowa. I have a veterinary clinic and started doing stem cell therapy on dogs in August of 2014. And after the first 2 dogs, after 3 weeks, I saw such dramatic results. I said, hey, I have arthritis. I have joints, really need this help. Where can I go to get this done? I had stem cell therapy done in November of 2014 on my finger joints, my hip, and the ball of my left foot, all of which I'd had real severe problems with. Saw a pretty dramatic improvement in a short amount of time. I would certainly recommend that somebody don't wait until I'm in the position that I was in with the damage already done to my joints. I encourage veterinarians to use it for their animals, and I encourage anybody who sees this video, if you have need, get in contact with these people because this is a phenomenal place to have this done.
The new Better Horses Network is worldwide, presented by Lucas Oil, featuring worldwide radio and TV with iconic hosts like Al Dunning, Sharon Camarillo, Ernie Rodina, Lindy Birch, and Craig Cameron. With American Cowboy, Horse and Rider, Brushy Creek, Cavenders, and Ride TV. Worldwide radio and TV, the all-new Better Horses Network.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Obviously, church, 4-H, all of that is weaved into everything else here. You're denoting 4-H once again on your t-shirts. So your kids all were heavy participants in 4-H, right?
Yes, they were.
And we're blessed with that being, we're 4th generation.
Right.
4-Hers now with our kids and our grandkids.
So let's talk about your youngsters who aren't that young anymore. They're adults, of course. Each of them has their own business pursuit, but each of them also has a stake in this operation yet to this day, in that the both of you are officially retired. Let's talk about Heath, first of all, your eldest.
Heath graduated from Kansas State in 1992. He interviewed with lots of companies, but he settled on Farm Bureau Insurance, and he's been with Farm Bureau in Montgomery County ever since he graduated.
Aaron, well, he's not as far away, and in fact is operating a meat processing firm, just to the next county north. In
Osage County, in Overbrook. He graduated from Kansas State with a bachelor's degree in animal science in 1994, and he went on to LSU to pursue a master's in meat science. But he came back to the farm and eventually purchased Santa Fe Trail Meats at Overbrook. And so he's been at that ever since. And he has a portion of the farm here also.
And Audra is a teacher as well, correct?
She has been a teacher. She's changed now. She graduated from Kansas State with a degree in animal science in 1996. She was a special ed teacher at West Franklin at the Williamsburg site for several years. And then she had the opportunity to work for a company that manufactures veterinary medicine.
And then there's Ryan, who is, on top of his involvement in the operation here, aligned with one of the leading agricultural organizations in Kansas.
Yes, Ryan graduated from Kansas State in 1998 with a degree in animal science, and he actually was an extension agent for Johnson County right out of college, and then he had an opportunity to go to work for Kansas Livestock Association, so he took that job and he's been there ever since. And he is actually the one that does most of the farming now, the actual farm work, along with his own. They live on a farm northwest of Williamsburg.
Want to finish up here by having each of you offer your thoughts on this recognition as a master farm family and what it means to you.
Oh, and it's an amazing thing. We're excited about it. We have shared it with our children, and they're pretty excited about it, and I think they fully understand what it entails, and we're really proud to be a part of such an elite group. It's really an honor.
Jean?
Very, very much so. And the part is that knowing some of the people that have gotten this honor before, it's just an honor to be in the same room with them.
Doug and Jean Higbee, Kansas Master Farm Family, class of 2017.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.